That's a lie. I just updated all those a few days ago. A day ago. Google has to have something to do with this. And of course, the hacker was successful at preventing me from uploading the Twitter live recorder. So stupid and simple-minded people. As if you can really stop someone from doing what they intend to do, regardless, on their own devices and network. This is the biggest scam right here. Tomorrow, the hacker will figure out a way to say that this wasn't updated for a whole week. So I'm going to start recording my updates and uploading them, as I'm going to do now. The hacker being the Ann Arbor Police Department. Of course, the purpose is to prevent me from uploading my negative experiences, negative and harmful experiences, here on a daily basis in Ann Arbor, Michigan, of which so many I have already uploaded, which of course does not reflect well or positively on the city, nor does it on their performance. And it puts them in the city in a position of liability, which they would so badly like to mitigate by deleting so much of my my files, including video proof and screenshot proofs and photo proofs. I'm losing files every day, specifically files that are proofs of criminal conduct against me, if not from supportive gang stalking members within and throughout the Ann Arbor, Michigan public, then from them directly remotely, where they know that I'm staying here off of Maple Road in Ann Arbor, Michigan, North Maple Road. Oh. All right, so now I have to make some space. I'm gonna do it recording, because that's what they don't want me to do, is to have proof of anything. So what's the storage? 500 megabytes free? Really? I don't have enough to upload apps? You believe that? She can make all the noises she wants to make. I'm not deleting this video. She wants to identify herself as a suspect, she's welcome to. After all, we are sharing. Well, I'm not on the Wi-Fi network, but it could be used to interrupt my 4G LTE signal, and I have felt confident that it's the neighbors upstairs because they're constantly it seems like they're communicating with me. They're stomping on the floor at coordinated times to my activity on the internet and with my files, in particular activities and files that are specific to proofs of suspicious and criminal conduct that I experience here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. As far as I'm concerned, my roommate doesn't have the know-how or the ability to perform such powerful functions as interfering with my device on my internet communications. And there just doesn't appear to be such powerful technology here within the apartment to do that anyway. So, jeez, Pete. Oh. Yeah. I've enabled the red flashes around the border because they can indicate to me when a hacker is conducting complicated commands that actually are executed or in the process of executing when I'm not touching the screen. But it also shows that border when I execute commands and they're being carried out. Regarding the functioning of the apps. So, all right. Yeah, I've been up all night studying on how to make my device more secure and hack proof, and it's a round the clock thing. I mean, it doesn't matter. Midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Now it's 10 in the morning. It just doesn't matter. They're always watching, and they're always interrupting my progress with securing control of my device, securing control of my use of apps, securing my online accounts. Speaking of which, since we're here, I'd like to show you something that I have a theory about. As with most complex operations and circumstances, there can be controlling influences from multiple sources. And so the biggest theory that I have regarding the hacking circumstances of my device and my online accounts is basically attributing such sophisticated hacking with the power and know-how, expertise, skilled use that I've experienced. I attribute that to local law enforcement and the use of advanced telecommunication surveillance and/or interruption equipment and software, such as STINGRAY devices that are originally and ultimately the property of the federal government, that are lent or rented out to or purchased by license for a designated amount of time by local law enforcement of the various levels, down to the community engagement level, that being the local city law enforcement, perhaps from the county law enforcement. Apparently, states police don't necessarily have access to that technology, but I find it hard to believe. So, and that also includes law enforcement of state universities, or universities in general, because apparently all universities are considered a form of municipality, at least in Michigan. But then, in surveying the Google App Store and seeing what's all out there and what's possible to do with the device, with the different apps that are out there, I realized 2 Google apps that I didn't know anything about that could possibly have a very powerful control over my accounts if a hacker got enough of my account information from smaller hacks, such as some type of background screen app or widget that can record where I tap on the keyboard, the screen keyboard, even if I set the keyboard up to not reflect or show any indication of where I tap visually on my screen. There are certain levels or layers of view on a screen that I've learned. They're called overlays. And so a hacker can have this kind of spyware to record your touch placement on the screen, just as well as if you were using, for example, a Bluetooth external keyboard. They can intercept that Bluetooth signal and siphon what you're typing. And so it makes it very difficult to safeguard any security conduct with the built-in general user interface of a device and or the apps for security purposes, because of these hackable loopholes that exist if you don't know enough of how to defend against them, which is what I'm in the process of trying to learn, because I don't have concrete proof of how these hackers are getting access to my online accounts and hacking me out of them consistently, other than they're viewing exactly what I'm doing on my screen. Because I do this in remote private places, like right now. I'm in my apartment in the living room. I'm actually faced towards a wall with my device. So unless there's some type of thermal imaging equipment upstairs from me that can produce some type of vision that is so clear that it could see specifically what I'm doing on my tablet screen, which I don't doubt exists, but if that's not the case, then it must be what I would consider or think to be an easier form of privacy intrusion and surveillance, and that being some type of widget in the background that is monitoring my conduct. And you know, that because most of the public, you know, maybe, who knows, 80–90% of the public just don't have the resources and the knowledge and the training to troubleshoot these kind of issues. It's very difficult to produce burden of proof to, one, even get the police involved for anything less than losing a significant amount of money, perhaps. But as we all know, money is not the only valuable commodity in life. And then two, rendering enough proof to present successfully to a judge. So I'm up a steep mountain here, but nonetheless, it beats being submissive to controlling influences and having my paid use of internet service and my bought relatively expensive smart devices controlled and hacked, and my files stolen, and it, you know, it beats that. So and that, you know, the saving grace is in the United States of America, you can bring a civil suit for anything, and you can suggest a number of possible circumstances that could rise to the standard of a preponderance of the evidence provable to a judge or a jury. And so my position has just been to not act hastily and to collect as much data and supporting evidence of circumstances and incidents as possible that will basically amount to circumstantial evidence in this kind of situation, because hackers don't just sit in front of you and hack your devices in front of you, and generally without you and then make you aware that they're doing that right in front of you. I mean, it's rare. So and in doing this and taking this position, and any advancements that I make for all of us here, at least in the United States of America, because precedent needs to be set to make cybersecurity crimes stronger and more protective of the public. Right now, they're so vague and bare-boned of precedent, case law, that people are like cattle, attached to and dependent on their smart devices. You're at the mercy of hackers and the law enforcement, and they can have a significant control over your life. There's something called a Google Fit app, for example, and it can use all the sensors of the device to determine your activity. If you're running, if you're jogging, if you're walking, if you're excited, if you're depressed. I mean, it's just amazing how much data that can be collected just by being near your device, let alone holding it. And since the presumption is that a person is with their device and not with someone else, any lawyer will tell you that. The law expects that. And then, of course, there are spies and gang stalkers to keep tabs on you and your conduct to confirm if you, in fact, have your device with you. If you use public Wi-Fi, that information and then information of your device can be retrieved very easily by hackers and law enforcement to keep up with where you are. And if you don't, you just use, your paid for 4G or 3G service. They can keep up with you and your device as you roam with it, because it automatically connects to cell towers to keep a line open in case you do need to make a phone call. And of course, to keep the line open for the internet service. And this is irregardless of whether you have on location or not. Most people don't know that. The only significant difference since November of last year for Android devices that have Google software hardware into them is that Google stopped, so they say, retrieving the information from your devices specific to cell tower identification information, which includes the particulars about your firmware on your device, as well as your hardware. So they'll have your IEMI number, they'll have your MAC number, your IP address, they'll have your phone number, And then since there's a cell tower involved, they'll have your SIM card number. And with all those numbers, if they get in the hands of hackers or law enforcement, then you do not have control of your device at your own discretion. It's if those hackers and law enforcement officers so choose to superimpose what's called a super user privilege of control of your device, even to the extent that they can root it of its protective barrier called a it's called a oh man. Well, let's find out what it's called. I've been up all night. Sometimes I forget simple things. In the moment. Alrighty. What is that called? Why is it not here? Oh, a kernel, I believe. Yeah. Kernel. So that's the security firewall, system firewall of a smart device. So yes, I just flashed all of my identifying numbers with my device, but it's already hacked, so it's already out there, and it can't be used anymore authoritatively than how the local law enforcement here would use it. And though that is my strongest theory, I'm convinced of it at this point. It is the strongest theory that I have by miles to anything else. I mean, there's just no one else. I don't have friends. I don't have family members around. I'm not working right now. I mean, there's just nobody in my life who would be working this committed and tenaciously to have control of my devices and my accounts other than law enforcement, because I've made so many complaints against them, and I have circumstances that warrant legitimate investigation for police misconduct, as well as the host of civil suits. So naturally, they're going to do the best that they can to sabotage my efforts to pursue justice and be made whole by how they've compromised my mental state, my state and ability to maintain a job. They've consistently showed up at my jobs, and soon after I was treated with hostility by fellow employees. This has happened, oh man, 4 or 5 times in the past 2 years. Some of the incidences I have on video. And it's just all a form of harassment to be submissive, and as they like to say, cooperative with their unethical, bullying, civil rights violating, and abusive authority or conduct of authority. And I'm not so much as singled out as an individual specifically, no more than anyone else in the public. But to the extent that I challenge their authority and I challenge their misconduct. And I make it known, and I make attempts and actions that show that I intend to hold them accountable for it. So anyway, back to this Google Play here. It's hard for me to make a short video. It's just a complicated circumstance. And if I express in a summary fashion, then I miss something significant. So it's called Cloud Carousel. And this basically is a Google app that can monitor a Google user's account's cloud storage and activity. And so the cloud storage that I use, for example, through Google is both Google Drive and Google Photos. And yet I've consistently recently had problems with uploading my photos automatically to Google Photos. In fact, I get to the first screen for Google Photos, and it gives me an option of whether to upload via Wi-Fi or data connection, and then I hit to complete the choice, and it won't even go any further than that. And so I thought, well, maybe the hacker is stopping my internet service when they see that I'm at that page, and so the page won't load into the next. But usually when that happens, an app will show that, by alerting you that the internet connection has been broken. But in this case, it just remains stagnant. To me, now, discovering this app, I realize that someone could have an administrative access under cloud control of my accounts if they have my passwords, for example. And even if you use two-part authentication, if a hacker can see everything that you're doing on your screen, then there's really no form of two-part authentication, especially when law enforcement is involved. And for example, you use receiving text messages as the second form of authentication, then they can intercept that text message more quickly than you, for example, and then release it back so that into the stream so that you can get it after they get it. I mean, there's so many things they can do. If not that, then they can somehow attach some type of ability of control to your browser, whether it's the app browser or the internet browser of an online account like a Google account. And so as you log in, they log in with you. But then they can also access the account with a warrant from the back door directly through Google. But they're supposed to get a warrant for that. But oftentimes law enforcement will lie. And so, I mean, it's not unfathomable that, they know somebody in one of these big companies that will work with them without warrants, or take their word that a warrant is coming, or who knows? I mean, law enforcement, there's no end to what they're willing to do these days. Who's to say that they don't come up with fake warrants? It's perfectly possible. And then produce them, and then who's going to go to the extent of filing a civil suit to demand a discovery of a warrant produced to one of these companies? Because even if you contact the company directly, like Google, they're not necessarily obligated to disclose to you information or correspondence that they've had with law enforcement about your account, unless you serve them to do so, with a subpoena of discovery. So again, that's another way in which law enforcement has a considerable amount of control that requires a lot of red tape and due diligence on the consumer's part to maintain awareness and control of their accounts. So I discovered this, for example, and if law enforcement is intelligent, they would use programs that were the most related to your accounts as possible, as opposed to more expensive, independently developed hack software to aid with their use of Stingray technology, for example, to force brute, to brute force controlling use of your accounts and your device remotely through the internet and your device. So it would just be much easier for them, for example, to use an app like this along with some of their technology. And so most people will never know what a Google Cloud Platform solution is, or this app, Cloud Carousel for Google accounts, let alone go looking for it or know how to use it. But yet a hacker or law enforcement could be using it against your Google account without you even knowing. So that's why this video is significant, because unfortunately Google seems to have this policy that unless you opt out, you're considered to be opt-in. All right, and then there's the other Google account. The other Google app. That is the Google administration here app. And then notice this right in the description, upgraded delete user workflow. Admins can now transfer the Drive files and the Google Plus files or pages of a user during the delete workflow. I don't know what the delete workflow is, but I can tell you this. I always have Google account in pairs, dating back uh, 6 accounts ago, because I've been consistently experiencing being hacked out of Google accounts as well as Facebook accounts. And some of it's my fault because I didn't follow up thoroughly enough to regain access back to those accounts. It was just easier. Google makes it very difficult. They're hard to contact, and it takes them days to get back to you, and it's discouraging. But this time, I have a lot of proofs and a lot of experiences that I've loaded up to the Google account that I'm hacked out of now, which is Varun Berganzi 4. So currently I'm using Varun Berganzi 5 and Varun Berganzi 6. I believe it could be the case that since the hackers can hear what I'm saying and see